French fries, and this is bacon, everybody's favorite meat, bacon. And can you guess which one of these you would not want to cook on an open flame? That's right, the crinkle cut fries do not do well cooking over a stovetop. And unfortunately, neither will these two slabs of meat cook well over a cooktop that doesn't work. You see, my old cooktop, Candice, that's her name. I name a lot of my pots and cooking utensils. Candice here has decided to go kaput, which I'm told means it's stopped. It is actually, it still has gas, but so do I. Anyhow, I can assure you this is not a safe proposition for somebody like me. You see, I've actually been brought back from the dead just for this episode, so you'll have to excuse my appearance. I've been dead for some time now. The igniter went out, so when I have to cook, I have to light it with this, and it always scares me just a bit because I have to turn the gas on, and then sometimes I leave it on a little too long, and then, well... Anyhow, I have called upon America's funniest handyman, who I am told is not only the funniest handyman, he is perhaps the handiest funny man working in show business today. He'll be along very soon to take the cooktop out, which I'm told is very simple. It's a very simple operation, plug and play, as they say, except for perhaps some pipe thread dope, which you will need. I don't know what pipe thread dope is, but America's funniest handyman mentioned it to me on his way over. Here he comes now. I'm going to go get my hair and nails done, and Tommy assures me that by the time I am done getting my hair and nails done, we'll be back and we'll be able to cook a nice beef bourguignon. America's funniest handyman, Tommy Highland. Tommy Highland, thank you. Come along, Tommy. Tommy, would you come along now? Tommy?
Hey folks, welcome back to America's Funniest Handyman, where today I'm going to be replacing this gas cooktop for the one and only famous chef Julia Child. I got to tell you, when I started America's Funniest Handyman, I dreamed that someday I would be doing household repairs for some famous people, and here I am in the kitchen of one of the most famous dead chefs that ever lived. So I didn't realize that she was dead when we booked her, but she looks pretty good, I think. Anyhow, so installing a gas range is really not that difficult. It's just a couple of small connections, and like I always say, a little bit of patience, because you never know what you're gonna find when you get underneath. So let's walk over here for a second, take a look at the new one, and then we'll get cracking. Okay, here's the old one that doesn't work properly anymore, and here's the brand new, gorgeous, shiny range top that we're gonna put in. This one's called a Thermador, which for those of you that don't know, a Thermador is a warm bullfighter in Spain. A Thermador. Anyhow, okay, so we have everything laid out here. This is it, man. Look at this stuff. There's not much to it. This is some cushioned insulation tape that we will put around the perimeter and set our new cooktop down on top of it. We're gonna do that so that grease and gross stuff, if it gets spilled, doesn't drip down inside and underneath the cabinet. This is our gas regulator valve that goes on the bottom over here. I'll show you that in just a second. These are the clamps that you put on underneath to fasten it down to the countertop. Sometimes the range is so heavy it doesn't need any help staying down by itself, but perhaps if you're on a ship at sea, you might want to fasten this baby down because you don't want to be in the middle of cooking some hot stew for the crew and have the whole shebang get lifted up and right onto you. So these have a star-shaped burner, so that's what you're seeing is the top of the burner, and that's it, man. So you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna put on my reading glasses and I'm going to give these directions a good read. Doesn't matter that I've installed a bunch of these before. It's always a good idea to read the directions when you're dealing with gas and electric at the same time. And by the way, you want to be extra safe when you're dealing with gas and electric at the same time, meaning that you don't want to deal with them at the same time. Don't have an open gas connection right next to something that you're wiring. Make sure that your gas installation is 100% complete before you start to do any electrical wiring. It's just good safety and good practice. All right, let me show you what we got underneath the hood, and then we'll get this thing in. All right? All right, guys, there's our new cooktop. There's our old cooktop. Let's get underneath the old cooktop and take a look at what we got going on underneath these cabinets here. I'm going to give you a little bit of a warning that the people that built this kitchen originally ran out of money at the end, and they hired some pretty crappy carpenters. So what you're about to see is freaking ugly. But luckily, as you can see, this is where our big giant pot drawers are. So the drawers typically hide what's going on under here. So let me point out some of the stuff that we have, and then we'll get our new stove in, okay? Okay, here we are. Now right here, this is a piece of aluminum flashing that I put over a giant hole that somebody made for a downdraft vent, and they never bothered to plug it up. So a couple of years ago we had birds, not rubber chickens, but we had birds trying to come into the house through that, so that was nice. And then we have this big, giant, ugly hole that was obviously made by an electrician. Would you look at how huge that thing is? Now, at some point, I had to actually fasten this gas line back a little bit further because it was preventing the drawer from opening and closing.
And then what's this back here?
America's Funniest Handyman.net?
America's Funniest Handyman now has a website where he's blogging? That's awesome. Go visit the website, ladies and gentlemen. America's Funniest Handyman.net. Okay. Here's our gas connection. Right now it is in line, which means it's open. So we're going to go ahead and close that gas line, which is very simple. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to disconnect this fitting from the diverter valve and take out the old oven. And look where they put the junction box for the outlet for the stove. Isn't that a handsome installation right there? Isn't that gorgeous? So what we got to do is we got to unplug the old range, because that's all they do is a gas range just plugs into a 110 outlet, and we have to disconnect that right there, and that's it. Okay, so the gas is off. Now I'm going to go shut off the electricity and make sure that we don't have any electricity coming through there. I don't want any electricity coming through this outlet while I have this gas valve closed and this one open. I don't want to risk having any sparks associated with my gas. Okay, I'm not sure if you can see this or not, but you want to use 2 wrenches. You want to use 2 large adjustable wrenches to take off this fitting right here, because if that's tight, you don't want to bend everything else and break everything else. So the other wrench is to help hold everything steady while you're taking off this one.
Swing the hammer, turn the screw, cut the saw and stick the glue, shake the shim, clean the vise, cut once, measure twice.
So now our gas and our electric connections have both been disconnected, and we can now take out the gas range. Okay, so we're ready to lift it out of there. The only thing I'm going to do is take these big heavy cast iron things off of there to make it a little easier to lift it up. And then we'll take this out and put it in the truck, because I'm going to take it to the scrapyard and get a few bucks for it. Okay, as you can see, I'm ready to use some pipe thread sealer and put my connections together. But before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and put this foam tape down around the perimeter now that I've got it nice and clean. And then after I do that, I'm going to show you a way to get that cooktop partially installed and propped up so that you can make your gas connections nice and easy. All right, so now I'm going to use a nice big block of wood, and I'm going to set it right about here. And that gives me enough room to have my electrical connection and my gas connection overhanging right here so that I can work on them while the rest of it leans into the hole. That makes sense? So I've got the thing all propped up nice and easy so I don't have to hold it up while I make the gas connections. My gas connection is got some arrows on it these regulator valves are almost always going to have an arrow on them, which tells you which direction the gas is supposed to go. My arrow right now is pointing this way, and we want our gas to feed into the stove, so I'm going to point the arrow toward the stove. I'm going to make this connection with some pipe dope. In this case, I'm using a product called Megalock. You can also use Rector Seal or pipe dope. This is the part where sometimes it can get tricky, is if you're taking out an old cooktop and putting in something that's 15 or 20 years newer, you may end up having to go down to your local hardware store to get the right fittings to make the new regulator valve work with your gas connection. So that may take a little bit of trial and error. If you do have to get a new one, I recommend taking your regulator valve down to the store with you so that you can make sure the threads all match up. But all I'm going to do right now is put some pipe thread sealer on these threads and wrench everything in and line it up, and then I'm going to drop it down and we're good to go because I already plugged in the power. That's it. Oh, and I did want to mention, if you need to get your old stuff apart after you take your regulator valve off and you have fittings connected to it, if they're jammed up and they don't want to come off, take them very far away from your gas supply and heat them up with a torch, and usually that'll break the seal. This is the tricky part. You want to make sure that your diverter valve is within the confines of this corner, because if you leave it sticking out, you're not going to be able to get the darn thing in.
Maybe you can't tell a joke, but when your stuff gets broke, what do? You give Tommy a call, whether it's large or small. There's no project he can't see through. Let's laugh and learn from this handyman, with Kitty hold this by his side, fixing stuff in a serious way with a not so serious guy.
Oh, shit.
Where did everybody go? I thought he was... Look at that, he didn't even finish the job. Typical contractor. Well, like I've always said, if you want something done properly, sometimes you have to do it yourself. I'm sure I can take care of this if I was to put my mind to it. Let's see, how about a little bit of it? Yes! Oh, yes, indeed! How about that? I'm a handy woman. Who needs America's funniest handyman when you've got America's handiest funny woman? Or whatever you want to call me. Anyhow, I guess I'll have to do his silly little outro and say goodbye too. As always, folks, thanks for letting us bring a whole lot of experience and a little bit of humor onto your job site. Bon appetit!
Drill the hole and fill the hole. Put the thingy in the hole. Be sure you're having fun. Measure twice, cut once.
I once knew a boy in school named Clarence. He used to get me hot. I think I'll name this new cooktop after him. Clarence.